How can we help refugees integrate better into society? This is the Performatory Talks with Bente Spooren.
I am fine. I have dark hair and blue eyes. I am as Dutch as a yellow pair of clogs. I complain about the weather a lot. I eat burgers from a vending machine in the wall, also a lot. I do everything by bike. I curse, and I eat pancakes for dinner. I have a Dutch name, a name that fits a spontaneous, white, Dutch girl. I am getting proper education. I have a very sweet partner and enough friends. I don't have to think about discrimination in terms of my name, skin color, background, or beliefs. It's true. I have never had to prove myself in the job market because of my background. I have never been discriminated regarding my beliefs, and no one has ever called me names because I'm white. I am fine. But how would Osama, Yassin, Iman, Tuka, and Haya feel? How would they feel about the elections 2 weeks ago, when they heard that Thierry Baudet was the big winner? A winner who is against the migration flow, who thinks that we should only include people that we need in our country, who has temporary care as a priority, and who wants to reduce general benefits of municipalities if they refuse to cooperate. Has this become a country of Dutch citizens only? Do we have the right to claim this land as ours? What sense do the slogans, "A city with a heart," "Breda brings it together," "Always welcome," "A city of opportunities," and "Just limitless" make then? I am fine. But what about the chances of refugees? Refugee, the word says it all. A refugee is someone who isn't safe in his home country because of race, war, political beliefs, religion, or a certain nationality, and therefore has to flee his country. The word refugee often arouses negative feelings amongst migrants. It reminds them of the experiences they went through and the scary situations they had to endure. That is why I prefer to call them newcomers or travelers, people who travel from origin to a destination. It's something many of us can relate to, and as a result, possibly makes us understand the situation better. But the problems aren't fixed with this change. Integration is tough. The prejudices are painful, the rules are difficult, the chances are not equal, and the culture is different. I am fine, but it doesn't feel that way. I see a photo of 3-year-old Aylan Kurdi, who washed ashore on the beach of Bodrum. I read the story of Abdulaziz, who lost his family in Syria and cannot settle in the Netherlands. I spoke with different families from asylum seeker centers who are still waiting on their family, a home, and people that can help them. I watched the documentary Teach Children, that tells a story about the difficult integration of refugee children in schools. My heart breaks. How many people do you think are on the run at this moment? Is it more or less than 50 million? What do you think?
Less.
Less?
Yes.
And you?
Less.
It's not less, it's more. At this moment, over 68 million people have fled their country. 68 million people. That is almost 4 times the population of this country. 68 million people who live in constant fear and doubt. And our country isn't as nice to those people as we may think. What percentage of Dutch citizens see newcomers as a threat to safety? What do you think? Just guess. What? 15? It's 20%. What percentage of Dutch people think that newcomers cannot make a useful contribution to our society? What do you think? 10%? 10%? It's 26. What percentage of Dutch people have difficulties with the opening of an asylum seeker center in the area due to the expected nuisance and crime? What do you think?
I'm afraid it's a lot. 50?
It's 25, but it's also a lot. And what percentage of Dutch people think that newcomers have to lose their culture? What do you think? 30? You're close. It's 33. People think that refugees get everything. Newcomers get everything. They get a house, they get food, they receive it all, including extra benefits, but they don't integrate. They take everything away from us. They steal our jobs, our money, they're criminals and terrorists, and they have a different culture that doesn't match ours. From an economic perspective, Minister Henk Kamp said that newcomers are bad for our economy. Halve Zijlstra from the VVD also said that it should all be arranged a lot more simple. People who want to travel to our country must be put off. The healthcare costs are rising and the housing market is stuck. We must change to a minimum level for these newcomers because we have to protect our own prosperity. From a cultural and religious perspective, people are mostly afraid that the norms and values of newcomers differ too much from ours and that they don't want to adapt. Harry Verbom wrote in the Limburger that most people who come to the Netherlands make no concessions in their beliefs. We have seen the consequences of this for years now. In the Netherlands, an increasingly intolerant climate is emerging where we can't say anything. It is also said that the majority of newcomers who come to our country have a Muslim background, which makes it even more difficult to integrate in our country. From a historical perspective, people are particularly concerned that the Netherlands cannot handle this amount of newcomers. There's not enough money, there's not enough space, there's not enough jobs. Our country wasn't and isn't prepared for this. The prejudices are painful, the rules are difficult, the chances are not equal, the culture is different. Integration is tough. I am fine. I am integrated. Most newcomers aren't. 90% of the newcomers still live on social welfare benefits 2.5 years after they receive a residence permit. So what causes this? I spoke with Yassine. Yassine is 38 years old and lives in Oorschot. 4 years ago, he fled his country together with his 2 brothers, from Syria, via Turkey, to Greece, to Hungary, to Austria, to Germany, and finally to the Netherlands. His wife stayed in Syria. His 3 children stayed in Syria too. He often felt lonely in our country. He had trouble learning the language, he didn't feel at home in the asylum seeker centers, there were 5. He had no friends, and he had to follow several internships. Now, 4 years later, Yassine lives in a small apartment in Oorschot, together with his wife and 3 children. But he still hasn't got a job, and only a few social contacts, and those contacts are mostly Syrian contacts. Yassine does follow a lot of internships, but companies do not want to hire him permanently. Yassine has a hard time in our country. He wants what I have, but he lacks guidance, he needs help from the municipality, he wants a meeting place for people, and he needs activities that he can undertake in his free time. Yassine wants to participate, but he doesn't know where to start. The Dutch citizens also want to help, but they don't know where to start either. A process of integration must be two-sided. The newcomer must have a proactive attitude and has to pay an effort. But there are also things expected from Dutch society. I am fine, but still it doesn't feel that way. More help is needed than is now offered to newcomers. Municipalities try their best. Municipalities try their best. They help the newcomers, but the help stops too soon. In a conversation I had with Wendy from Vluchtelingenwerk Nederland, I was told that municipalities only assist to a certain extent. They help with finding a home, but then all the costs are for the newcomer, even though he hasn't got a job, he has a big family, and he lives from a small alimony. Besides that, the integration course should be completed within 3 years. Otherwise, the newcomer will get a fine and eventually even has to return and repay the €10,000 loan he received. In addition to this, it is also possible that the newcomer has traumas, still has family that is unsafe, has no outlet, no one to talk to, lives in an asylum seeker center, and has a lot of stress because he has to follow several internships. Integration is only seen as successful in our country once a newcomer is an active member of our society in various aspects. This means that someone attends Dutch education, interacts with Dutch people, and can speak the Dutch language. I believe that even greater social participation can better contribute to the integration of newcomers. That municipalities must work more intensively with educational institutions, healthcare institutions, organizations, and experts to strengthen society in an economical, cultural, social, and individual level. I also believe that the fastest way of integration lies not only in learning the language, but also in the social and personal development, in creativity. Creativity helps in bringing cultures closer together. It helps against depression, it helps people in their social development, and it helps newcomers better deal with their past. Isabel Kaptein from Foundation De Vrolijkheid agrees. Creative activities are extremely valuable. Refugees often live in a tense situation. There is a lot of uncertainty. They live close together and they often receive little attention. Creative expressions are great tools to shape stories, process things, and develop talent. You often notice that depressions occur when people grow older and that they are hard to motivate. Music, theater, and other activities are great ways to reach them. Creativity and social participation. Two components that, in my opinion, can ensure better participation and integration. Will this also be the case in practice? Next year, I will be working with various parties to see whether my research actually works in practice, and to see if there are positive effects on the integration. I am fine, because I can fight for something I believe in, for someone I believe in. And this is not my story, but the story of these amazing people. Thank you for listening.